everybody. This is Tajikbay, and it's what 9:22 a.m. British time. So yeah, I'm getting a little bit more and more uh, inspiration to do different things, different projects. So hope you like the podcast I recorded yesterday with regards to some of the MMA takes that I have had with regards to Alex Volkanovski, Ilya Topuria, Colby Covington, and Matt Brown, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so today I want to maybe switch up the topic a little bit and talk about something that I think in the MMA betting world we do not talk about enough. I mean, I always see when there's a fight, there are always like two camps or um, two sides. If the fight is controversial, if the fight is close, and it's very strong takes, or everybody going one way decisively. And but I want to talk a little bit more maybe about the line movement and for each fight, for the upcoming fight for the UFC Vegas 86. Right? Is that UFC Vegas 86? I don't even know. Let's just make sure. So yeah, that's to me. I think it's kind of important because the upcoming card is right around the corner, and there has been already some significant action. So yeah, I think it's worth talking about it. Right, we're talking about Hermanson versus Pfeiffer in the main event, and yeah, the event is happening this Saturday. So what I want to do, I'm going to pull out. I'm going to keep it very very simple, and I'm going to keep it within the frame of the fight and fighters that I know. Um, and the odds are available at fightodds.com, right? So they're across the board with the different bookies and stuff like that. So what I'm gonna do, I'm probably gonna go with for now, unless you have any kind of feedback further on with Bet Online, because Bet Online tends to open odds early. Um, and yeah, and I think the market then kind of orients itself and adjusts the lines accordingly, right? Like yeah, so I think before when I was in US, I was always looking up to DraftKings, but yeah, I'm not sure what the situation is right now. Maybe you guys know better. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna look at the lines, maybe Bet Online, maybe some one more. Bookie. Let's do that. Let's do maybe yeah. Let's do DraftKings. Yeah, let's do DraftKings. Why not? I love DraftKings. I mean, I enjoyed the product, both fantasy DraftKings and um, and the betting side. So I think it was great. So yeah, let's maybe keep those two for comparison and just see where the line movements are. But without further ado, guys, let's get the show started. Shout out to Fight Odds. I think very good website, very convenient. I used to be on bestfightodds.com, but the site has become unbearable and very tough to use, and not much updates. They added ads, Google ads, Google affiliate ads is what it is. I'm assuming. Yeah. So I'm just gonna go ahead and close this out. Haven't opened it in a very long time, and yeah, I'm gonna switch to the app to fightodds.com. So let's go. Daniel Marcos versus Richie Lang. Um, this is tricky, right? Like because Marcos is undefeated, and he fought twice in the UFC, and Richie Lang um, has a mixed record in the UFC, obviously, and his last win was against Johnny Munoz, which was also kind of like a close fight. There is some differential. Let's check in terms of age and anthropometrics. Boom, yeah, it's actually pretty identical. I mean, even like it's almost entirely identical. But we're gonna see at the weigh-ins because we see this kind of mistakes that we do by relying on maybe topology and Sherdog a little bit too much, where fighters look from the tail of the tape like identical, and then you see them facing each other. It's they look, one fighter looks bigger, so it happens. So anthropometrics identical, age identical, this that, and then Daniel Marcos is coming in as a heavy favorite. Well, I'm not moderate favorite is what it's considered. but minus 160 he's opened at on Bet Online. And let's check the DraftKings just to see where he opened that on DraftKings. Okay, so minus 120. Yeah, this is very very interesting, because it looks like that market that the bookies believe that it's a close fight, and public somehow decided to take it a different way. I mean, to see this such a alignment across the board, it's very. I'm not going to use the word suspicious because I don't like this word. There were a lot of um, yeah. I don't think it's warranted for the most part. The business is it's pretty straightforward and it's pretty transparent, other than few exceptions we have witnessed. Um, but there's a significant line movement just in general across the board, not just Bet Online and DraftKings. What do I think about it? I'm not going to give you any guys kind of like underwater stones, this that, or maybe Orich Lang issue is injured and there's that. There's no way of knowing that. You're not going to know it, and whoever says they do know it is probably not being entirely honest. What I think from the first look, before looking at the odds, I thought it's going to be pretty even fight. So I'm gonna say this. I'm not even gonna say that if you took Marcos early, that it was somehow a great bet or anything like that. Like last week, I think I mentioned that with Pogs, with Jamal Pogs. If you took him early, yeah, I would probably be on level with. Yeah, there is some value, and indeed people took some action, and it paid off. But the thing is with Daniel Marcos is his volume. He's not necessarily the type of guy who's gonna like overwhelm you with his volume, and indeed we've seen it in his last fight, like with Davy Grant, for instance, that he was outstruck. And maybe to that you can say that Davy Grant just in general tends to outstrike his opponent. So I think it's a fair counter, but like my issue here is that Orichilang will strike, and Orichilang, if needed, and I think he showed that in his the Johnny Munoz fight, can go for takedowns if needed. So I think I always go with the fighter who has more ways to win, and I think in this case, although Daniel may be a little bit sharper with his striking, I think it's very hard to justify the odds, him being at minus 255 right now. Yeah, the lowest you can get him is minus 250. So all in all this to say, right? Like we're talking about line movement. We're not necessarily talking about the outcomes and this and that. I would say justified or not justified. I think in this case, this line movement is not justified. And with Daniel Marcos, just given the fact that he's a very tactical fighter, maybe point fighter, a smart fighter, which is a good thing for his health and maybe for him winning the fights and finding most optimal ways to win, but not good enough to warrant minus 255. Yeah. So next fight is we're gonna go with Haider Emil versus Fernando Garcia. Fernando Garcia is a replacement. The fight, which fight was canceled actually? Yeah, it's Melsik Bagdasaryan who's drew, and now Haider Emil with the record of 8-0 is facing Fernie Garcia, right? So a majority of people on topology are actually picking Emil to win. It's 88% versus 12%, which is significant. So public is overwhelmingly with Haider Emil here. Let's look at the odds. The odds are at the moment, yeah, at Bet Online it opened at minus 255. It is minus 193 right now. And let's check with, let's say, DraftKings. Minus 185 opened and minus 193. Somewhere in the ballpark of minus 190 to minus 200 is where you can get is where either ML odds are available, in general. So I think the best odds that you can get is probably at Betway right now, minus 175. minus 188 right now. Okay, so I think in this case, right, like if I were to look, answer the question whether the odds are justified here, the line movement is justified or not, I would say yes, it is. There is a correction towards uh, Fernie Garcia. There's some belief that he will probably perform better than the odds suggest. Um, and I tend to agree with that. I tend to agree with that. There are a couple of factors there which contributed to the line being where it is, and we're seeing this, albeit slight, but still an adjustment, right? There are a couple of things. Uh, One thing that stands out to me when I look at this fight is obviously the size difference. It looks like Haider Amel is going to be a bigger fighter, but again, I want to see the weigh-ins. I really want to see the weigh-ins, like just how big. I remember Haider Amel fighting, and in my memory, he looked not as profoundly big, and I don't know if he's going to be bigger than Fernie Garcia. So yeah, so what's going on here? And we have to factor in the fact that Haider Amel is making his debut. Fernie Garcia has actually fought in the UFC. I think the big factor also when you're considering the fight is experience of fighting in the UFC under the bright lights. We just don't know a 33 years of age, 8-0 fighter who is not necessarily have a lot of experience coming in against the guy who has fought in the UFC, how he's going to perform. So I'm gonna say this. In terms of the line movement, I think this line should be going a little bit more towards Fernie Garcia. I don't necessarily again claim that he should be winning this fight, but what I'm saying is that I think this line should be a little bit closer. Um, Fernie likes to go into this. I'm not gonna say reckless, but he goes for it. He will fight for your money, and I think this is important. And Haider Amel, we just don't know his upside just yet because his strength of competition has not been the best. Whereas we know for Fernan Garcia that at the higher level he does not necessarily shine, but he makes it close, And I think Brady Heinstein fight was close. Rinya Nakamura obviously dominated him. Rinya has a very profound, very evident way to win, which he capitalized on. Although I think Rinya was also making his debut, if I'm not mistaken, but Rinya is super super hyped. Again, this show is not, or the podcast is not about the pick. It's about the line movement. I think this line has to move a little bit more towards Fernie. I think that's a little bit fair. If and The slight movement, but not the slight in this case, if we look to bet online, um, minus 255 to minus 193. Yeah, we'll talk about over 60 cents. I think it's warranted, and across the board we're seeing this now as this alignment with the bookies, minus 190, minus 195. Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't look like Hyder is getting a lot of love, whereas on Bet Online, Fernie, they call him, is getting some traction. So yeah, that's all where I'm gonna leave it at the moment. Um, Fairline, I would say anything if you're getting Fernie, anything up to plus 150, I think is justified. Plus 150, yeah, but giving Hyder Amel such a high chance is as high as like minus 255. I don't think it's warranted. Yeah. I actually might want to pull out the MMA probability calculator. I like this tool. Just gives me like sometimes if I dive into the numbers just to get a perspective of where a little bit different perspective in terms of the numbers. So yeah, I'm just gonna use that right now. It's mmabettingtips.com/implied probability calculator. You can Google it. You can see it minus 200, money line, 67% chance, boys. Like yeah, so I mean to get a margin on this on Hyder, you have to rate him at over 70%, almost like 72%, to get your 5% margin. Yeah, it's not. It's just not 70-30 on a brand new guy. Yeah, now let's look into minus plus 165, 37% chance. Yeah, I would say it's close to like realistically like implied. I think maybe 45% would be fair for Fernie Garcia. Yeah, I think in terms of the odds, fair odds, there is obviously a value on Fernie Garcia. Doesn't matter. Like again, not talking about who wins this fight. We're talking about the line movement. I think what you're getting with Fernie right now is fair. And if you took an action, my plus 165, plus 173 is the best that you can get. Yeah. So far, Daniel Marcos not justified, and a movement towards Fernie Garcia versus Hyder is justified. So the line correction is there, and it makes sense to me. Zach Pauga versus Bogdan Guskov. This is tricky because for me, like I think it doesn't have anything to do with the fighting itself, but Zach Pauga is like a very um, unorthodox, I'm going to say, personality, like very strange with his tweets and just engagement with the audience, with MMA fans and the community in general. But that aside, yeah, he's not a terrible fighter, guys. Like I understand he got caught with Mo Usman, but he's not a terrible fighter. I think he's more calculated, measured fighter. This that, and Bogdan Guskov is this fighter um, out of Uzbekistan, right, with the records of 14-3. I'm gonna say this. I don't like to say this type of things, but he is giving me uh, like a very profound, like fraud vibes. And and here's the thing, right? Like a good counter would be like, hey, Volkan can knock out everybody, but has Volkan really been knocking people out? Like from my memory, like, when was the last time before Bogdan Guskov that Volkan Ozdemir knocked anybody out? We would have to go back to Ilir Latifi fight of 4 years ago. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. I think Guskov is giving me very, very odd vibes, and I'm gonna say this right. Like I think Zach Pauga, this line movement is not justified. I don't think it's justified. I think Zach should be a bigger favorite. And again, I'm not gonna talk about the outcomes, but if you are getting on the Zach Pauga train and you're looking into the odds right now, I think you should be feeling pretty good with the way where this line is going. So I think, yeah, I think it's pretty solid. I don't have any issue with that. I want to see maybe until today how things go. But by the end of the day, I'm gonna be pretty confident that whatever is happening right now with Zhao Pauga is being, yeah, with Guskov, people betting on Guskov, yeah, it's not justified. Very, very odd line movement here, boys. In my opinion, I might not be, I might be misreading something, but and there, yeah, so this would be fine, but I'm gonna say this. I think Zhao Pauga realistically should be somewhere in the minus up to minus 180. Like is fine. Like what am I missing here? Okay. Oh, it's justified, not justified, not justified. Jeremiah Wells versus Max Griffin. I'm gonna keep it clean and quick. People are betting Max Griffin here. Justified, not justified. I would say not justified. Just because it's a little bit tricky. I mean, the things about Max Griffin is that um, I'm not necessarily sure that Max know what's the what's the how to win fights, and I think that what gives him away. Like he hits hard, he gets knocks people out almost every fight, knocks down people every fight, but then he doesn't do anything about it. He wrestles, but then he also doesn't capitalize on it. Because if you look into Team Mean's fight, right, like I thought he probably won, but which was another split decision. It's a little bit strange to me. I mean, he's if Team Mean's win doesn't happen and Team Means is kind of, yeah, he's been on a tough run lately, then the latest last win is going to be Carlos Condit, Song Kenan. Like those two wins came in 2021. I think was the issue here with why the public is maybe reacting this way is that um, maybe because Max is bigger, he has his experience, he has volume, um, but people forget. I think in my opinion, the age is identical. Max has a reach again, but Jeremiah has, in my opinion, more ways to win the fight. And if Max decides to go grapple, like what he's gonna do, I mean, I don't, Jeremiah has never been taken down. And then if Jeremiah decides to go, I mean, his takedowns are actually pretty decent. What I mean to say is that I'm not gonna say that he's able to control Max Griffin for this prolonged period of time. But what I'm saying is that if he decides to mix up the things, mix up the game, then he's gonna be able to do that. And I'm not under the impression that Max is going to do that. Yeah. I think he mixes his game out of confusion as far as because he just doesn't know how to win the fights, and that's Max Griffin. So justified, not justified, gonna keep it again clean, short and sweet, hopefully. But I don't find it to be justified. I think the more action comes in on Max Griffin, the more I welcome it because I think um, Jeremiah should be up to minus 170. Like it's fine. Yeah. So again, and then we're gonna go to Devin Clark and Marcin Prashnio. Guys, like this is tricky. This is tricky, and I want to see this actually right now. But the thing about, I mean, there's no justified, not justified. I would say not justified. Like how people are betting Devin Clark in this economy is very odd to me. Minus 230. What are we implying here? Minus 230. Minus 230. 70% chance. I mean, so you have to give him 75% chance to have any kind of edge on the bookie. This is absurd, boys. I mean, that is absurd. The thing about Martin is that you can take him down, but it's not necessarily that he stays on the ground with you. And I know Petrino had a good control on him, but he tries to scramble. He tries to scramble. Um, yeah, Lenz was way bigger than him, but even Lenz was his size. He wasn't able to exert the like extensive amount of control on him, right? So I think you're probably maybe you'll counter us that, but um, you know, Devin can chain wrestle and this and that. Um, he could. I'm not saying that, but again, like I said, the stylistically is a little bit tough to justify minus 200 on the Devin Clark side. I'm gonna go with unjustified. So if you are Marcin Prashnio better than or considering betting him, like looks like the stars are aligning your way, and I do not necessarily, again, not gonna talk about sides or should bet or should not bet, but things are looking good for the Martin Prashnio betters because. In my opinion, I think this line movement is not justified. So yeah, let's just kind of maybe quick recap, like we're just to cover a few things that we have covered already, right? Like to conclude, Daniel Marcus absolutely don't understand this line movement. Hydra ammo, yeah, I see it's getting a little bit more even towards Fernie. Fernie, I think line movement, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Zhao Pauga, Bogdan Guskov, people betting Bogdan Guskov again, like it's crazy to me. Max Griffin, a very strange line movement again, and either like I'm entirely wrong or public is entirely wrong. I think we're going to find out. But Prachnio, like, geez, people betting again, like Devin Clark in this economy, guys, like plus 200. You Marcin Prashny, like, and Devin Clark minus 230. Wow, that's very strange. Loma Lungbunmi versus Bruno Brazil. I, I would say justified, but like let's not get carried away. Like this is WMMA. We know that it's very volatile. I mean, MMA in general is very volatile. So you're telling me that minus 276, like. I understand maybe even if you picked up Loma early, minus 193, like you picked, okay, not bad, but so I think in terms of movement, it's justified, but it has to be kept at that point. Like unless you're just putting Loma in your parlays, okay, like whatever. But in terms of the movement, I think somewhere at minus 250, even earlier, minus 240 to 50 should have stopped. But people are just, I think, not recklessly, but pouring in money towards Loma. I, I get it, but like guys, like look, I don't think we should get like really ahead of ourselves. Trevin Giles versus Carlos Prates. Minus 160 he opened to Carlos Prates, and Trevin Giles is yeah, so he's in minus 255 right now. Ooh. This is a little bit tricky because again, I keep using this word a lot today. Um, I I get it. I'm just pulling out Carlos Prates' record. Um, I understand what. Oh, it's raining outside. It's beautiful. Yeah, if you see it in the background, pardon. So I understand what's the appeal, but like Trevin Giles is not really like a guy that you can like finish like in an instance, right? There have been some obviously Michael Morales caught him, right? Like and Gabriel Supton, but just in terms of like I think you need to just in terms of like putting him away, like oof, I, I don't know about that, guys. I don't know about that. I think we have to be really careful when we're betting on an underdog, especially at these odds right now. In terms of justified, not justified, I think any bet on Trevin Giles is like is just, but it's my philosophy is terrible bet because the guy doesn't fight for your money, right? But okay, like in a vacuum, let me talk about Carlos Prates. Like, okay, he's gonna go early. He will try to finish, and then if that doesn't materialize, what do you guys think will happen? So, what warrants minus 255? Like, maybe somebody can explain to me in the comment section why. Oh, keyboard. Sorry. Why you guys think that implied is he's 72, so you want some edge, you will go like, okay, good edge, 5 to 8%, so 80% to win against Trevin Giles, who is a veteran. I I think Trevin Giles has a terrible style and this that, like not the best fighter, not the best fight IQ, this that, but you're telling me it's a 20% chance to win. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say it's absurd. Yeah, I mean there will be opportunities, guys. It's very. I think if you're a dog hunter, then there will be opportunities to to have some bets on the underdogs, which I think would be very interesting. But yeah, let's move forward. I want to keep it a little bit in a like this podcast also a little bit shorter, and yeah, obviously it's a pilot episode. So Rodolfo Vieira, Armen Petrosian. I'm gonna say this. I think 50-50. Yes, true. Like close fight. Like I'm not gonna comment on this much. I have my pick. I will reveal it later on my Substack. But I think yeah, I don't have a problem. This is a two-way action. No problem there. So yeah. Michael Johnson versus Darius Flowers. This it looks like Michael Johnson. People are betting a little bit. Michael Johnson. Yeah, it's a two-way street. Two-way street. Bookies, I think, also want you to bet a little bit over Darius Flowers. Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, bookies are gonna do just fine because it looks like the action is going both ways, and people are betting that Darius Flowers and betting Michael Johnson. So I'm gonna leave it at that. No problem there. No problem. Uh, Greg Robocop versus Brett Tavares. Uh, minus 250, boys. Minus 230. I don't know about that. Robocop like is getting like he can get really good at finding ways to lose the fight when he's winning the fight. But he has more ways to win. Is that grappling? Although Brad is like every time you hear about Brad, like people talk about like that he went to this school, that school, and his wrestling is phenomenal. And I don't know if the reality reflects that. I'm not. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but yeah, I think he's shown some vulnerability in the past. See, I'll say this, but the latest takedown that I see from him being taken down was by Omar Ahmedov. Yeah, so let me take it back. Takedown defense, Brett Tavares is 82%. So shut up, Tajikbay. Uh, like, um, but I don't know. I just think that against maybe I the point that I was trying to make that against the cage is not the best. Like if you pressure him a little bit, I think you can press him, right? Like I don't necessarily meant like in technically like in defensive wrestling. I think he's solid, but like if you watch the Chris Weidman fight, I think you will know what I'm talking about. Bum, bum, bum. And Gregory, I don't know. He's just such a volatile fighter. Like yeah, Tululin KO shouldn't spell much for me to be honest. Um, it's tough because I think he's gonna go. I don't know, boys. Like I was leaning Greg Robocop, and now I'm kind of like, and I shouldn't be making any leans or predictions right now because it's a line movement show and podcast, right? Like, yeah. So, but I'm gonna say this. Um, I don't know about the line movement, right? Like minus 225, start at plus 225. Brett Tavares on bet online is plus 200 right now, and on DraftKings, let's check. Yeah, plus 170, so he's plus 195 right now. And let's see, Robocop minus, yeah. So it looks like on DraftKings people are going after Robocop. Um, I just don't agree with the line itself at openers, guys. I just don't know. It's like if Robocop is a minus 260 or minus 250 or against should be against anybody. Um, but I just think it's going to be a close fight. I think it's going to be a back and forth fight. So I think um, in terms of movement, like it's a little bit strange. But if you took early Brett Tavares plus 225, I understand. And if you went after Robocop, I don't understand. Yeah, I'm not gonna understand this. So yeah, it's a little. I think the line should be closer, just a general. I think at openers the bookies should have made a little bit better job. And I don't know if this week Brett Tavares betters will punish bookies. I'm not gonna have any problems with that because I think it's a little bit too aggressive. Robocop minus 250 is too aggressive, and I think plus 200 plus 203 even Brett Tavares is pretty generous. Ihor Poteria versus Robert. Let me make sure I don't butcher this name. This is a Polish fighter, Robert Bridgesek. Yeah, Robert Bridgesek. I spoke at length about Ihor Poteria. Well, not at length, but I spoke some. That I think he's not a real fighter. You know, I'm gonna say I want to take it like partially back because I don't necessarily think he looked like terrible. But honestly, all you have to do though, like is to look at his record, though, right? Like guys, like 4 fights, he's been finished 3 times. That's it. And the only time he finished it was Mauricio Shogun Hua, and he made this terrible gesture and stuff like that. Like so, and I think Robert Brishik is kind of giving me the same vibes as Ihor Patera, right? Like he's also his record looks a little bit fraudulent to me. Everybody he fights is like he puts them away with one shot. Like wow, yeah, I don't know about that, boys. Like I really don't know. Like the Polish betting MMA scene is just it has like a really good product sometimes, like KSW and stuff like that. Some really good fighters coming out of Poland, but I think it's a little bit like Russian, to be honest with you. This is like this Eastern European circuit is a little bit odd at that, right? Like you have very mixed. You have really good fighters, and you have the fighters who just like are really not good. Like I just don't know what to think about either fighter, to be honest with you. I've seen Eor. Eor is being put out, but he's being put out by some decent fighters, and then this guy is just putting away, baristas and yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. And in terms of line movement, right? Like because I'm not picking side, it's just line movement. Yeah, people are betting your Patera. Good luck, boys. Oh, good luck, good luck, good luck. Oof. People are betting your Patera. Oh my god. I'm gonna eat my words probably, but like, yeah, just I'm gonna say sarcastically, good luck. I don't know, like, why bet your Patera? I guess in the sense that it's a 50-50 fight, which I think could be right. Like I have this theory. Sometimes the fights are 50-50, so you take the side which is plus money. If I applied this logic to a fight, then Igor Patera bet makes sense. But I'm not gonna do it just because I think Igor Patera is fraudulent. And then maybe I say, okay, but if you say that Robert Brishchik is fraudulent as well, then you should probably be betting a plus side. I'm never in my life is gonna bet Igor Patera. And if you do, like I said, sarcastically, good luck. Dan Ige versus Andre Fili. Yeah, it's tricky because Ige just he knows how to win. He fought at a high level, and I think this is maybe one of the very few chances that Andre Fili has left to make it to the top. Um, I don't know the motivation. I think Andre Fili is very motivated, and I don't know on the motivation from the Dan Ige side. But he's a top 15 fighter, boy. So what motivation else need to have? I think anthropometrics is interesting that Andre is bigger fighter. Age wise, they're pretty identical, and a lot of people believe that Ige is going to win this fight. I think he has ways, but I think it's going to be a close fight, boys. I think it's going to be a close fight. So obviously, bookies they went a little bit stingy, and there's not much. The public is not enthusiastic about betting under Fili, and they're more enthusiastic about under Fili. If you're on the Fili side, I think just wait a little bit. Probably going to get something around plus 160. Justified, not just it's a little bit tough because it's hard to look good against Dan Ige. And Andre Fili has this moment where just this mental lapses where he's just either being knocked down or not. Like yeah, he's like we've seen it, guys, and unfortunately, like I actually cheering for not then he for Andre Fili in this fight because I want him to make some just break into top 15 for God's sake. He's been in the UFC for so long. Like you have to scroll like multiple times to see his fight record. But man, like that Nathaniel Wood knocks you down. Brito puts you away. Charles Jourdain knocks you down. Like that's just these are just not good looks, guys. In the end of the day, all we have to see is like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight fights, 3 wins, 4 losses, and one no contest. I don't know, boys. He's just so unpredictable. And it was Danny Gay, yeah, Bryce Mitchell, yeah, Nate Landwehr went like is going to, I think, age as well. But if you look into Danny Gay, what are you necessarily seeing? Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3 wins and 5 losses. Ooh, interesting. I'm not doing wiki capping here, but all I'm saying is that winning percentages are important to in seeing the upside of the fighters because more fighters with the more balanced records they tend to do better, right? Like it's obvious, but if the fighter is on the streak, he's rising. The odds the that he or she has a good chance to continue in this fight of going towards that strategy. Whereas when you have a fighter who is just going back and forth, you'll start seeing a pattern that this is what's happening, and that the fighter is going has a very mixed results, right? So that's what I'm saying. So we're the point here is that we think that if you look at it, if you don't look at the record, if you're not doing it to tell the and I'm looking at the UFC stats right now. This is not again. not like a weak capping or anything, but like you look at to you think maybe Dan Ige is a more consistent fighter. You would think that, right? He's top 15, uh, recent good wins, like just lost to Bryce Mitchell, whatever, right? And then you look, and then your thought is Feely has been so back and forth, yada yada yada. But like then you look at the records, it just doesn't reflect the reality. I think you have a little bit more, or I had, and maybe you probably had a little bit better perception of Dan Ige as a fighter or as of his record than it is in reality. That's why you have to check the stats, you have to check the numbers, and it just doesn't add up. Dan Ige is not the more consistent fighter than Andre Fili. I think where you can counter that is my guy like, but Dan Ige is fighting like way higher caliber of competition, so it's strength of competition. Yes, it's true, but it's a bit different metrics than we're looking into. Huh? Like, it's not necessarily that although he is fighting with a higher level of competition, he's losing to the higher level of competition, right? And his wins against Landor, Damon Jackson, and Gavin Tucker. So in terms of the wins, these are not necessarily like overwhelmingly bigger wins than Andre Fili. Fili beat Lucas Almeida, Bill Algeo, Charles Jourdain. Sheamus Morales is not that terrible, right? Like, so that's you can go back and forth, and I think the point is not to take sides, actually, guys. Like, the point is to actually keep going back and forth. Oh, Fili is more consistent. Ige is more consistent. No, he's not. Yeah, but he has a higher strength of competition. Yes, he does, but he doesn't perform at the higher level convincingly. He has a entirely losing record. Okay, but and then the strength of competition in general, in terms of winning, it is identical. So you have to go back and forth to put these things on scale. And that's, I think, the bigger mistakes that we do. We see this fight, we see this lines like, oh, Ige all the way, and then things happen. So I think we need to be a little bit extra cautious here. I think bookies are realizing that they're a little bit stingy in Philly, but maybe they're also sensing some threats from people pouring in or betting or being more enthusiastic about entry Philly. Not happening. It is not happening. So we have to be a little bit careful here. Let's see. I'm not enthusiastic at this money to bet under Philly. I don't understand the line movement and towards Ige. There's not much going on, so I guess I get it, but yeah, so no problems there right now. And let's look at the final fight. What is going on? Jack Hermans's plus 215, plus 220. What were they? Were at opener, obviously minus 190. Yeah, so I'm money coming in on Joe Pfeiffer. Not as crazily as I thought, so I get it. But yeah, again, I disagree with an opener. But Jack Hermanson is like, it's very hard to, like, I don't know what to expect out of Jack Hermanson. That's my problem. I don't know what to expect out of him. Here's the thing. I'm gonna say this, but Joe Pfeiffer always makes me think wrong because he's been in a dono alert and just in general. Uh, I just don't think that Joe Pfeiffer is a good fighter. I'm gonna say this. And with Jack Hermanson, something always happens. Like, something breaks, this, that, like, but he doesn't have this again in terms of record and strength of competition, right? Like, yeah, let's see. Brandon Allen, he pulled out. Derek Brunson had an injury, but the leads put him away. And then it was a close fight with Chris Curtis. Um, I'm gonna wait. I'm very skeptical about Joe Pfeiffer just in general. I think at some point he's gonna lose. I don't know if it's gonna be today. On Saturday, you would have to wait for the picks. But I disagree with an opener, boys. I disagree with an opener. And if you are betting Jack Hermanson this week at plus 215, I understand. I understand. Understand. Well, I think I covered it extensively. Let me know what you think, guys. Right, like it's not a pick show exactly, but the line movement. I want to maybe dug deep and try to understand the rationale and maybe take give you my take on whether the odds or line movements make sense. And I added a little bit of my take on the outcomes that I'm seeing. But all in all, if you enjoyed the show, just feel free to share it. 45 minutes, yeah, that's not terrible. I'm gonna go grab some coffee. It's a little bit early for me. So yeah, if you like this podcast, feel free to share it. You can find me on tajikbay.com, on my Substack at tajikbay.substack.com, on Twitter at Tajikbay. And yeah, like I'm on all the streaming platforms, streaming, screaming, broadcasting, podcasting, this, that. Thanks for tuning in, and so long.